thank you. What was I saying last night for all you that were there? Girl power. Yay, women! Give ourselves a round of applause. I'd like to thank Luke and Heather and Manny and Danny and everybody for putting this together and for inviting me. I've been invited before, but this was the first time I was able to make it because, as Danny said, I'm not so popular anymore. So when I was popular, you know, people were inviting me all over the place. Now I'm not popular, but you know what? I'd rather be right than be popular. And what I mean by right, I mean correct. I don't mean, you know, you know what I mean. And, you know, so many people have sold their souls to this empire. Whether they've sold them to the Republicans or the Democrats or the military-industrial complex, it's all the same. It's all the same. They all have the same goals. They all get paid by the same people. And I like to call the Democrats and the Republicans a war party. And you can just tell since Obama's been president, everything that he and his Justice Department do to protect the criminals of the Bush regime. And they protect each other because they all want to do the same thing. They all want to have the same power that the previous administration had. And I really seriously feel like crying because there's a lot of pain in this room. There's a lot of pain in the world. And, you know, my heart is with the first responders. My heart, I mean, every time I find a first responder and we talk, you know what they tell me? Well, I was just doing my job. But I believe that what they did on 9/11 was above and beyond the call of duty, for sure. And when I meet with the family members of 9/11, they all tell me we didn't want our country to go over to other nations and kill other people for what happened to our family members. I met a very good and dear friend of ours, who's Michael Berg, whose son was beheaded in Iraq. And he was beheaded right after my son was killed. And when I met Michael, I said, you know, it's awful what happened to Casey, but I can't imagine, you know, your child being beheaded and everybody watching it on the internet. And he said, well, when I meet family members, I say, at least I got both half of my sons to bury. So I want to speak for people who aren't here today, who can't be here. You know, we have vets, and like I said last night, my dear friend Mathis Chereau is here, and David, right? David, right? Daniel? I can't hear you. It starts with a D. Daniel. You know, they're giving better service to their country by seeking the truth and by fighting against the empire than when they were being misused by the military-industrial complex. Those are heroes to me. And I haven't been in the room for every speech, so I might not even be telling the truth. But it's just you guys will set me straight, I know. I haven't heard anybody speak for the Iraqis and the Afghan people and the Pakistani people. And, you know, I know we have a horrible police state. I've actually turned around to cops that have been chasing me, and I'm saying, what the hell's wrong with you? I'm a grandma. You know, you're chasing me when there's scoundrels in the White House, when there's scoundrels in Congress. fast anymore, so if I was younger, I'd probably still try to outrun them. But then, you know, I've been running from the cops with Jason in Pittsburgh, with Luke in Pittsburgh. We got tear gassed, we got shot at with rubber bullets, and I'm like, oh, you better not hit me. If you hit me with a rubber bullet, you better have a real bullet, because I'm coming after you. And seriously, what gives them the right? You know, they're just like us. They're our brothers and our sisters and our neighbors, and they're enforcing for the criminals. They're being enforcers for the criminals. And so, I mean, everything happened to us in Pittsburgh. But we stood up to the war machine, we stood up to the military-industrial complex, and it's horrible, it's awful what's happening. But do you realize in Kent State, Ohio, 4 young people were murdered by the National Guard for protesting? I don't think anybody's been murdered except today. In Afghanistan, Afghans were going out to protest the burning of the Quran, and German troops turned their weapons on them for throwing rocks. And at least 1 person was killed. They're there by the thousands, standing up to people with guns and bombs and drones. And we can't even get out in the streets and to help them fight off their oppressors over here. You know, Gary was walk through body scanners and stuff at the airport. I hate that. I hate flying. When they always say, can we look in your bag? I always say, sure, if you have a warrant. They always look at me like I'm nuts. And I say, don't you know that this is a legal search and seizure? That you should have a warrant, and if you don't have a warrant, you should have probable cause that my bag is going to do something illegal? And just because I'm traveling doesn't give you the right to take away my Bill of Rights. And every time they say you want to go through one of the body scanners, I say no. You know, I'm not going through that. Do what you have to do, but I'm not going through that. But do you know, in Iraq and Afghanistan, women are strip searched by the U.S. military. Women who are, I mean, I'm not modest at all. But these women are very, very modest. They're being strip searched by the people who are occupying their country. They're being raped. Their bodies are being burned. The evidence is being hidden. We just found out that troops were taking souvenirs off the bodies of dead Afghans. And you know what? That's not something new. This shit didn't start happening on 9/11. It's been happening for hundreds of years. So that's what we need to recognize. And our pain and our love and our compassion shouldn't stop at the border. It should extend to all the people who are harmed economically, socially, physically, by the acts of this U.S. empire, and that's everybody in the world. My heart was broken on 9/11. I know yours were too, and many of you lost family members, loved ones, friends. We all lost somebody that day. And I tell everybody, when my son was killed, your son was killed. But when the people of Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq are being maimed and dispossessed and killed, there are brothers and sisters too. And that's what we have to think about. They're the people who are being held under occupation. We're the occupiers. It's up to us to do something about it. I'm almost done. I have this big end thing pointing at me. I am a 9/11 truther. I do think it was an inside job. and we can. We're the only ones that can. You know, the people are the only ones that changed everything. It has been good that people have changed. The people into slavery. The women got the right to vote. You know, the blacks brought on civil rights. And it's the regime, the oligarchy, the plutocracy didn't want any of those changes. Why does it take decades of struggle? You know, these are all of our human rights. They're not rights to be bestowed on us by the politicians and the bankers and Wall Street. They're rights we're born with, whether we're Americans or Afghans or Pakistani or Iraqi. And the Bill of Rights only wrote down rights we already had. It just wrote it down. But I want you to think that on 9/11, 2001, and 9/10, 2001, and 9/12, 2001, and yesterday, and today, and tomorrow, 30,000 people, mostly young people, will die of starvation. Every day, 10 9/11s occur around the world. It's time to start acting locally, but thinking globally. Thank you.